Hi, it's Cara, you're watching Bianca Reads, and today we're doing my favourite books of 2020. So these are my top 20, but they're in no particular order. I could not have picked if I tried. There are a few things that were almost in there, but this was like things that I thought were like top notch for 2020. And I'm gonna try and do this video in like 10 minutes. So you know that I loved all of these. I'm not going to describe them in detail, or I'll give a brief like one sentence description of what they're about. And if there's something particular that was the reason I loved them and not just that they're amazing, I'll try and give that as well. But I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible. I loved all of these. They were all like just all round amazing. So first off, we have some things I don't have a physical copy of. First one is Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. There's actually two Akwaeke Emezi on this list. There's a couple of authors that appeared more than once on this list. Oh, I should say, these are all things I read in 2020, not things that came out in 2020. So Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi is an adult fiction about dissociative identity disorder through the lens of a woman who has gods living inside her. It was amazing. Because I'm just going to say it was amazing for everything. That's why I don't want to go into it too much. The other Akwaeke Emezi, while we're at it, is Pet. This is about a trans girl who is uncovering monsters in her town, and it's very metaphorical, very deep, but also super fun. It's like a middle grade young adult, like right on the cusp. We also have, and I'm pretty sure Akwaeke Emezi is an African author. I think they're Nigerian, I think. We also have Black Work by Alison Whittaker. Alison Whittaker is an Indigenous Australian author, and this is a collection of poetry about the Black experience in Australia. It's amazing. We have King and the Dragonflies by Kaysen Callender. This is a middle grade about a young boy who thinks his brother has come to him, his dead brother has come to him as a dragonfly, and also his exploration of his sexual identity as a child. All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This is a memoir aimed at teens and young adults and focuses on the author's experience growing up, going to college as a queer young person, a Black person too. As a queer young Black person in America. Absolutely stunning. Loved it to pieces. Most of these I listened to an audiobook, that's why I don't have a physical copy. And the final one I don't have a physical copy of is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabgisha Grice. Wabgisha Grice is an Indigenous American Canadian author, and this is set in the Anishinaabe area. And it's a story of Wendigo, and follows a post-apocalyptic environment where a reservation gets cut off and they have to fend for themselves, and some white people rock up. We have I Would Leave Me If I Could by Halsey. This is a collection of poetry. Absolutely stunning. I read this in December. Loved it to pieces. Want to reread it right now. Maybe listen to the audiobook. I have not loved a poetry collection as much as I loved this one. We have Alatsue by Darcy Little Badger. This is an illustrated by Ravina Kai. This is Darcy Little Badger is another Indigenous American author, and this is they're Lipan Apache, and this is about a alternate America where different beasts are like vampires and things, and their folklore is real, and Alatsue, her cousin dies, and she can see ghosts, so she's gonna try and solve the problem, solve the murder, solve the death. We have Silence of Bones by June Hur. This is a Korean young adult thriller. Like a lot of the authors on the back are young adult authors who blurbed this, but this really blurs the line between adult and young adult thriller, following a girl who's essentially a slave that it works for the police force because men can't touch women's bodies, so she handles bodies during investigations as for the police of women, and women are dying in a like Jack the Ripper-esque kind of situation, and she's up to solve the problem. We have The Scapegoaters by Hannah Abigail Clark. This is a sapphic super fascinating. Oh, as described here, loner lesbian teenage witch. Her name's Sideways. Action-packed roller coaster ride. It's a witch story, pretty dark, super queer. I can't wait to read the sequel. We have Foul is Fair by Hannah Kaplan. I 100% recommend the audiobook for this. And this is a Macbeth retelling following a group of girls. One of them was sexually assaulted at a party. They drugged and sexually assaulted at a party, and she's seeking her revenge. It's so good. The audiobook especially is amazing. I would recommend the audiobook. My favorite adult romance of the year was Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the sequel to Get a Life, Chloe Brown, but they're like companions. And we follow Danica and Zafia, and they're like fake dating, friends to lovers kind of romance. It's so good, so good. We have Raybearer by Jordan Ifweko. This is an African fantasy young adult following Tarasai, who holds a genie's wish in her that her mother is trying to use to kill the prince. It's so good. I read right at the start of the year Library of the Unwritten by AJ Hackworth, and I've been desperately trying to read the sequel, but it just keeps not happening. This is about a library where all the books that were never written are in hell, and the librarian kind of gets caught up in an adventure. We have A Song of Roots and Ruin by Rosanna A. Brown. This is another African fantasy young adult following, this is an enemies to lovers kind of story, following the crown princess who is trying to reanimate her mother, for which she needs a king's heart, and to do that she's going to run this competition to get her groom to marry to be king, to be the king's heart that she's going to use to like bring back her dead mum, and a boy who needs to get his sister back from a like evil spirit, and the evil spirit says to do that he has to kill the crown princess. So they're both trying to kill each other. It's so good. Again, I can't wait for the sequel for that. We also have Felix Ever After, which is the other case and calendar on this list. We had King of the Dragonflies earlier. This is about Felix, who's a trans boy who's gets outed at school as trans, and his dead name is used, and he's freaking out and he thinks he knows who did it, so he decides to catfish them, but it doesn't turn out the way he expected. Right at the start of the year, another one that made it all the way through the year, we have We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, which is a exploration of grief and us with an underlying sapphic romance. It's absolutely stunning. I bawled my eyes out, and probably one of the only books that I cried in all year. We have House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is a sapphic, not sapphic, this is a queer story, which I feel like you can tell from the cover, it's just so queer, about a social worker who works for the like Department of Magical Youth, and he's going to investigate this orphanage for dealing with magical youth and assess them to see if they're functioning properly, and one of their students, or like people, kids at the orphanage, is the Antichrist. It's so good. It's so whimsical. We also have Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Aiden Thomas is a trans Latinx author. This has trans rep, black rep, Latinx rep, and it's a gay romance between a brujo who's trying to prove he can be a brujo because his whole family thinks he's a girl and should be a bruja, and the ghost he accidentally returns, like captures this ghost by accident. And finally, my absolute favorite contemporary of the year, we have The Henna Wars by Adiba Jaigirdar. This is the cutest, most fluffy sapphic, but also super deep and super thoughtful and sapphic romance between these two high school girls, Nishat and Flavia. And Nishat is Bengalese, and yeah, Bengali, and she wants to have a henna business for their school like business competition, and Flavia is black and Spanish, maybe Portuguese, and she also is an artist, and she decides to also have a henna business and a rival henna business, but obviously she's appropriating henna because it's not her culture. But they have a like enemies to lovers romance, and it's so good. One thing I will say, I absolutely love how diverse this list is. So of the 20 things, of all of the things, maybe 5 of them aren't queer specifically, but also like Danny is bi or pan. The main characters in this don't have a romance. And this has some strong sapphic vibes also. Most of them are gay. A large proportion of them are from authors of colour from across the world. And I'm just so proud of that. And I'm proud that there is also so many Indigenous authors on this list. So I'm just so proud of everyone. I feel like I always read diversely. Like I don't understand how people can't read diversely or who struggle to read diversely. Like there's so much available and they just sound so much better than all of the vanilla white straight stuff out there, and they're all so good. You know why? Because if they're not absolutely amazing, they're not getting published because you're all a racist. I hate to say it, but it's there. Publishing is racist. So if it's diverse, it's good. Yeah, absolutely love this collection of books. I hope you find something to read and add to your collection here, because all of them are absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!